Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 33 of my 2022 reads. This week I read quite a few different books across a lot of different genres that are all 2022 releases. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. First, I finished The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories, edited by Chen and Regina Kanyu Wang. This is a collection of Chinese SFF short stories, and I buddy read this collection with Kristen at Kristen L SFF Reader and Rachel at RK Stumbling Bear, who I will link below, both of whom are also co-hosts for the new release-a-thon, and this was one that we were all really excited to get to because we'd heard great things from Reija at the Bookfinch, who I will also link below, who had this as one of their book club picks, and so they've got a lot of content on their channel talking about this if you're at all interested in more. But this collection is written by women and non-binary creators and translated as well by women and non-binary people. And it is really fascinating because it's actually a collection of SFF short stories mixed in with a couple of nonfiction essays about Chinese SFF, about women in Chinese SFF, about translation of Chinese works. So some interesting analysis and essays about the process as well as all of these stories. And the stories were really fascinating too. A lot of these really focused on almost taking much of classical Chinese mythology and bringing that into the future, or Chinese myths or history or cultural practices, and relating that to science fiction or to women's experiences. So there were some really interesting things going on in these stories. As is pretty common with any sort of anthology where you've got lots of different authors, some of them didn't work so well for me, but overall I thought the collection was definitely strong and really worth picking up, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished Woman Eat Me Whole by Ama Asantewa Diaka. This is a poetry collection that has a lot of really interesting themes. Themes of womanhood, of body, of identity, of country, of pain. There's so much in this that is talking about the author's experiences with her own body, with some chronic pain, with the way that men treat her, with the way that men treat other women, the way that also people deal with life in Ghana, her home country. Just so many really, really fascinating topics. The poems are very visceral at times. There's very graphic imagery. Some of the topics are really heavy, but it is just so filled with emotion and often anger. So I thought that this poetry collection was really quite good, but a little heavy to take in. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished Valentina Salazar is Not a Monster Hunter by Zoraida Córdova. This is a middle grade contemporary fantasy that I heard about from Cynthia at Book Whimsy, who I'll link below. And this was just such a fun middle grade. This is basically about Valentina, and she is, I think, around like 10 years old. She's got some older siblings, and her parents and her whole family have been monster protectors. They have been going around, and anytime there are magical beings that are accidentally in their world, they end up sending them back to Finisterre, the place where they're actually from. There are some monster hunters as well, and they're trying to protect the animals from those. Until one day, her father, before the start of the book, ends up having an accident with one of the animals and is no longer with them. And her whole family kind of falls apart at that point, and they stop being monster protectors and just try to live normal lives. But Valentina wants to be a monster protector. She wants to go out and deal with all of these monster sightings and protect, the monsters, but also protect the humans and everything like that. And so she's trying to get her family back on board to continue this, even though her father is gone. And there's a lot of content in here that is dealing with that grief and the way that each of the family members processes it, and then really them kind of learning to come together and do what they kind of find is meaningful in their hearts, even though they've experienced some grief and some trauma. This was filled with just so much cool magic, lots of kind of that fun, silly middle grade feel, lots of action, but I didn't feel like it was too fast paced, except at the end it did get a little bit chaotic, but even so, I thought it was just such a fun ride if you're looking for that kind of light-hearted, fun middle grade fantasy that still has a couple of those deeper themes that are handled in a really nice way. Definitely recommend this. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished The Woman in the Woods and Other North American Stories, edited by Kate Ashwin and Kel McDonald. So this is a graphic short story collection about all sorts of different North American indigenous tales. And this covers a lot of different tribes and has a lot of kind of trans and non-binary and women creators who are making these stories. The stories cover everything from sort of traditional tales, things like how rabbit has a short tail, like how that happened, or some things like ghost stories or stories of possessions or dealing with kind of traditional mythological animals, these sorts of things. Some of them are historically set, some of them are more modern set, and it is just like a really neat collection of these different stories. The artwork in each is done by different people, so that was a little bit uneven for me. I liked the artwork in some of them, but in others the artwork didn't work for me as well. But for all of them, I felt like they were able to tell their story pretty well, and it was just nice. I love getting different kind of snippets of mythology from different communities. So I thought that this was a neat collection, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I read A is for B by Ellen Heck. This is a children's picture book published by Levine Querido that is so fun. This is basically an alphabet book. So, you know, just like you would have A is for apple, except in this one, what you have is A is for B, and then it has the words for B in all of these different languages where the word for B starts with A. And so this is just like this multilingual book that has really cool illustrations. It has like just these kind of scratching, I guess, illustrations. I really liked them. And it brings in words from so many different languages across all kinds of parts of the world. So we have plenty of Indian and African and Native American and Eastern European and all kinds of languages represented in this. And so it's just a lot of fun. And in the back it says they actually have like a website where you can go and listen to all of the words said. This was just such a fun little picture book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, that is everything that I read this week. If you guys have read any of these, if you're interested in them, or if you want to tell me what you've been reading this week, I would love to hear from you. Just leave me a comment down below.